Hello, my name is Ishaan,
Hello, my name is Pallavi,
and
and welcome
welcome to
to Politics
Politics
Corner.
Corner, your crash course in modern day politics on the international, national, and local stages.
Here, we pride ourselves on a moderate and unbiased approach to politics, regardless of our political affiliations, and we hope to encourage our fellow Californians to learn and care about their government.
We're moving to a new upload schedule where we'll upload one segment episodes throughout the week instead of three segments all on one day.
Those segments will be released Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 5 p.m. Pacific Time.
Over the last year, California, along with the rest of the United States, did a real life experiment in what happens when we decriminalize everything from drug abuse to burglary to homicide. The results? Rather stark.
Welcome back, folks, and welcome to Local News. Today, we are covering California's sudden crime surge. Ishan?
Yeah, 2020's Black Lives Matter movement called to hashtag defund the police, and politicians, rather quickly, bent to that pressure.
Very true. For example, California, along with several other states, set bail to zero. So if you call the police on someone, that person will be awaiting trial out on the streets, likely committing again, if not retaliating.
Not to mention how we've released prisoners convicted of petty crimes, which has literally led to people committing more petty crimes. Shocker.
Shocker, really. Surges of smash and grabs in stores across California have led many police departments to literally say, we can't handle them all. Here's LAPD Detective Jamie McBride about Los Angeles' recent Don't Come Here warning.
So right now, you can literally go out, do whatever you want, commit crimes, and you'll be out faster than the officers can finish the report, and that's a fact. We're wondering how many times does somebody have to be arrested here in L.A. before they stay in jail? It's sad to say, but it's almost safer to hang out with Alec Baldwin on a movie set than to go shopping in Los Angeles right now. That's how crazy it is. It is so violent. We're telling people don't visit because we don't think we can keep you safe right now, and that's just sad to say.
Put aside don't come here warnings from the Los Angeles Police Department, individual shops are now hiring private security, which, first of all, shouldn't even be a thing that stores need to do when we have, functional police. But also, only big stores can afford that. If you think that local small businesses can afford private security, you are dead wrong.
Yeah, no, think about local businesses that have been absolutely decimated by these crime waves right after barely surviving the financial effects of the pandemic. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, another measure that politicians have taken, which they claim are, quote, compassionate policies, is Proposition 47 in California. Pallavi, you want to tell me about that?
Yep, essentially every person convicted of a felony can apply to have their crime reduced to the status of a misdemeanor, so they can get out of prison sooner or even right away.
But let's not forget, Governor Newsom, after signing this into legislation, then came out saying that the crime surge has essentially nothing to do with the state office, and that mayors should, and I quote, hold criminals responsible more.
Deferring blame, playing dumb, or outright pretending these crimes don't exist seem to be all the popular strategies amongst the Democrat politicians right now. AOC tweeted, quote, a lot of these allegations of organized retail theft are not actually panning out.
Here's what former Congressman Jason Chaffetz had to say about that.
She lives in a different universe. Look, this is sad. It doesn't have to be this way. These types of things, we need community policing, and then we need prosecutors who enforce the law. But they're not doing that in these democratic cities. And you know what? One of the best indicators, the metric that you can look at as to does America feel safe or not safe, are gun sales. Look at gun sales and ammunition sales. You go into a Cabela's or a place that sells ammunition, you can't even get it because America doesn't feel safe. And these Democrats are making conscious choices to defund or decrease the amount of money that goes into policing. The business community and the voters have got to stand up for themselves. I don't understand why these businesses aren't in there yelling and screaming at the mayor and the city council demanding that they be protected. And the consequence is the most poor, the most vulnerable among us, they're the ones that suffer the most consequences.
So, I mean, you heard Jason Chaffetz, right? And I think a lot of what he's saying makes a lot of sense, because who are the people who won't be able to, protect themselves against this crime wave? it's always the more vulnerable. It's always the mom and pop shops in your local communities.
Yeah, and I love how Colin Kaepernick and LeBron James were pushing this. They were saying that these are compassionate policies, and the reason that they said that they were setting bail to zero is because that would, and I quote, make it a crime to be poor.
It's actually deeper than that. What I think is that this whole, ideology, while it, started from the right place about helping the people who have been victimized and oppressed, it suddenly became this big balloon, movement where everyone's oppressed. And because they've been oppressed for a long time, therefore they now need, some kind of remuneration for their oppression. And so now it's okay to go and rob shops, and it is okay to go break the law and set buildings on fire because you can't punish me because, hey, I was oppressed.
Yeah. And it's hilarious because while LeBron James and Governor Newsom can push all these policies, guess what? They're not the ones being effective. They live in gated communities in, Beverly Hills. Like, LeBron James literally lives in a multi-million-dollar mansion in Beverly Hills in a gated community. You think he's the one being affected by this? No. But he's the one pushing the policy.
I will tell you that there is this strongly reminds me of my uncle while I was growing up. He was working in Nigeria, and he came back and he told us that this is this kind of a culture is an accepted part of their daily life, where the doorbell might ring and there would be a bunch of people and they're basically come to pick up or thieve whatever you have, and if you just kind of sit by quietly and they take what they need, everything is peaceful. If not, they're going to there's going to be a violent crime. And his explanation for that was basically that these people, they have been so severely oppressed that they think it's okay to come in and take from the ones that are better off, and it was just an expected way of life because the police there basically allow criminals to just basically not even have a fear of, oh, I'm going to be jailed. No, okay, I'll make bail. I'll go back. I'll commit the same crime.
Yeah, and what was it that Jamie McBride said? He literally said, you will be back out on the street faster than the police can process the report for your arrest.
Yeah. And
very pointed, very wow, this is the state of California.
Yeah, you said something about something merry-go-round earlier.
We were talking backstage. Jamie McBride, I love this guy. I've never met him before. He's an LAPD detective. Great, seemingly very, very intelligent man. What he basically said was the Los Angeles prisons have essentially become a merry-go-round for people who are committing crimes, going back out on the street, committing more crimes, going back out on the street. It's like, why even bother with the stop in between? Why don't we just close down the prisons and, we can just live in the Wild West again?
Very well said. That's exactly what it's coming to. And, if you think about it, that's probably...
Return to our roots, the Wild West.
Right. And that's probably why, the gun sales are surging, which, by the way, is, again, one of the things that the Democratic Party, at least, on principle says, we should have more gun laws and we should have...
Right. We should have more gun laws. I agree. But here's the thing. When you have a police that's going to be ineffective because you've fired a bunch of people, you've made them realize that they hate their jobs, you've demoralized them, and you've defunded them, and then you decriminalize crime, guess what? Now I'm like, okay, well, now you kind of have to have guns because that's the only way to protect yourself now.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we see neighborhood watches turning into neighborhood militias.
Okay, let's hope that, it doesn't come to that and that, America wakes up and they basically say, look, this is not what we signed up for. What's going on in the Democratic Party right now, not everybody's aligned to that agenda either. Or at least, at least we hear certain speakers saying that they don't even understand where this wave of lawlessness is coming from.
You have heard Nancy Pelosi's famous statement. Why don't we listen to that?
But the fact is that there is an attitude of lawlessness in our country that springs from I don't know where.
Well, I don't know about Nancy Pelosi, but I, for one, do know exactly where this attitude of lawlessness came from. Came from the Democratic Party agenda that they've pushed throughout 2019 and 2020. They have ripped on police. They have just shut down criminal justice programs. They've defunded criminal justice programs. And they've just let law and order, that whole concept, sit on the back burner of their campaigns. and that's not okay.
There's this saying which says, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, which literally means, in order to throw out the wrong that's in that justice system, you've pretty much abandoned it on principle and then created a whole set of new problems. And when you see that these problems that everybody could foresee except you have been created, you basically wash your hands off and say, whoops, how did this happen? Where did this come from?
Yeah, speaking of which, Kevin McCarthy responded to Pelosi on Twitter saying, quote, Speaker Pelosi should look in the mirror to see what caused the attitude of lawlessness spreading across the country. And Democrat politicians defunded police, raised money for rioters, and pushed policies that are soft on crime. They own this crime wave. This story is relatively new, and we don't quite know how individuals can get involved yet, but as always, you can write to your congresspeople on the state and federal levels. You can always be outspoken in your community, and when we know more, we will be sure to let you know. Thank you so much for listening.
We want to thank you for listening to this episode of Politics Corner.
If you want to get involved in politics but don't know where to start or who to trust, then Politics Corner is great for you. We are a free podcast that gives you bite-sized crash courses in modern-day politics, how government affects you, and how you can get involved.
We pride ourselves on making every episode unbiased with a moderate approach, regardless of our political affiliations.
If you want to hear more from us, follow us on social media, or just subscribe.
I'm Pallavi Sharma.
And I'm Ishaan Prasad.
And
thank you for listening to Politics Corner.